Good morning, everybody. How's it going? So happy to be here with you. Hope you all are doing all right out there. Survived all the snow. 1, 2, 3, What do I want? What do I desire? What will bring me to my highest good? What do I want? What do I desire? What will bring me to my highest good? Prosperity, I claim it. Abundance, is mine. Love flows through me. I feel joy all the time. I can have it. I deserve it. I claim it. It is mine. I can have it. I deserve it. I am it. It is mine. Oh, peace fills my heart. I surrender everything. Health is my birthright. Oh, passion helps me sing. I can have it. I deserve it. I claim it. It is mine. I can have it. I deserve it. I am it. It's my time. I release and let go. I accept what is mine. I can have what I want. And let spirit direct the flow. Life is good. Life is fun. Life is great. The song is done. Good job.
Thank you, musicians. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Portland. All you hearty Pacific Northwesters who made it this morning. Yes, we are there. So we're so grateful. I'm Beth O'Shields. I'm your administrator, and it's so great to be here with all of you this morning. We made it through that record snow-breaking event, right, with Lisa being on a beach in Hawaii. So we're not bitter. Just saying, she's having a wonderful time, and we wish her lots of rest and renewal. All right, she'll be back with us week after next. We are in great hands today. Reverend Evan Wilkins is our guest speaker. Yes, and he will be putting it all into perspective for us later. Yes, he will be, and we're so grateful for the gifts that he always brings to us. So we're glad you're here in person. We're grateful to our virtual family. We know there's a lot of you at home with your coffee, curled up with your cats in your laps, and we're just glad you came and joined us today. It's great to have everybody in the room. And, this community is such a blessing to so many. It has been an amazing couple of weeks with our new members coming in. We've had people come forward. We're doing some new support groups. We're resurrecting some groups that were pre-pandemic, and we're so excited about that. You'll be getting lots of info on that in the coming weeks. But, we're better together, and life is a little easier when you know that you have a place where you can come, where you're accepted, appreciated for who you are, have a place to bring your gifts, and knowing that we are love and expression, and we are that. So with that knowledge, let's move into our opening prayer this morning. Just settle into your chairs and relax your shoulders. Set things down for a time. Let's all take a deep breath. Merge our energy here in the room. Let go of some of the things that you came in with this morning. Mother, Father, God, Infinite Spirit, we open our hearts and minds in this sacred moment. We're ready to receive the gifts that we know are ours to receive today. We're open to the ideas that we'll hear and experience this morning as they move us gently along our path, supporting us throughout the coming week, reminding us of who we really are. We take this feeling of oneness and we spread it out into the world, into our communities, being the conduits of kindness, love, charity, respect, letting our love shine through all we do and all we see. And for these gifts, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. So I want to take a moment to introduce our prayer chaplains to you this morning who are available to pray with you following the service. If you'll stand, Susan and Sherry will be here following the service if you have a prayer need. We are so grateful. I loved seeing that slide earlier of all of our prayer chaplains. We just brought 5 or 6 new prayer chaplains into the program, so we're pretty stoked about that. We're so grateful. They're the foundation of our ministry, and we're so grateful for them. They do a recorded message every day on the dial-a-word and dial-a-prayer, and there's little cards out on the table. You can pick those up. You need a little lift during the day, you can call it and get it in an instant. So we're so grateful that you all continue to do that service for us. And if you have a prayer need and you don't want to pray in person with somebody, there's prayer requests in the backs of the chairs. You can also send a prayer request through our website at unityofportland.org. There's a place where you can do that. So we're so grateful for you. Thank you. So I'm going to move into some announcements here, and I'm going to probably announce this next week too when there's a few more people here. But I was asked to remind folks that we have a whole big parking lot over on 47th. Right across the street here, right across 47th. Some of our new people may not know that, but yeah, this lot here, the west lot, fills up pretty quick on Sundays. So we ask if you're able-bodied and you can park in that lot, we would love for you to do that and walk across the street and save some of these spots for our slower walkers and people who might take a little extra time to get into the building. So we appreciate you doing that in advance. After the service today, we are still going to have our, Creating a Living Legacy. That's what we're doing, right, Jim? Jim, stand up so they can see who you are. Jim is the head of our endowment program. He's putting that all together with our board of directors and a wonderful team. And as I said last week, we're a full-service ministry. We not only pray with you, but we're going to teach you how to create a legacy, right? If you have questions about a will, or about setting up a living trust or any of that, he is a trusted friend here at Unity Spiritual Center of Portland, and we are just so grateful that he wants to share that knowledge with you. So grab a cup of coffee after the service, and you can come back up. He will be in the chapel for a little non-technical discussion about what your future might look like financially. The YOU and the Unitine Spring Book Sale starts next week. I know you guys have been waiting for that. So grateful for all of you who've brought books in. If you haven't done that yet, we are open Monday through Thursday, 10 to 4. You can drop them off anytime during that time, and they will be ready for you to shop downstairs next Sunday after the service. I also want to mention the Youth and Family Ministry is kicking off a plant sale on March the 12th. Now, last Sunday I would have said, don't wait and buy your plants. I don't think I need to tell anybody that this weekend because I don't think we're thinking that way. But do wait and buy your plants. See what they have to offer. It's a great deal. You can pick them up on, I think it's May, the first Saturday in May, and then we're going to have a community planting here for the plants that are donated to the church. So that's pretty exciting too when we do that. Bingo is returning next Sunday. You guys had a great time last week, right? That was a lot of fun. There were a lot of you down there. I heard you. And we're going to do it one more Sunday of practice. That's next Sunday following the service. $1 a card. And this is so our volunteers can gain some practice before we go public. So we appreciate you planning to stay and supporting them. Our next big event, we just came off this big, wonderful Mardi Gras event. And so we're thinking, what do we want to do next? Well, Larry Wilder has come forward, and he is going to present a concert on Sunday, March the 19th. We're having a fundraising lunch before that. But the really cool thing is that we are partnering with the Raphael House. which is a women and children's shelter. And so we are going to partner with them. We're going to split the proceeds from the concert, and we're also going to have a wonderful lunch available for you before the concert, which is also part of a fundraiser. We have some great chefs here, and we found that out at Mardi Gras. We know who you are. We will be calling. So yeah, it was a great time, and we have some wonderful people here who will make delicious food for us. So plan on staying on the 19th. I also want to mention Dixie will be downstairs today to help you with signups. If you're not in the Sign Up Genius or you're curious, go ahead and stand up, Dixie, so they know who you are. If you have any questions about volunteering, she's your go-to. A lot of you have been asking about groups that meet here during the week. You know, we have a lot of rentals. There's something going on here 7 days a week. I have printed these calendars out and put them out on the table. These are all of our support groups and community groups that meet here during the week. So we not only have a whole lot of support groups, we have a Toastmasters group, we have a Course in Miracles group, we have a couple of chorus groups. So if you're interested, you can pick this up if you don't go online. Now, if you are online, you can go to the website, and the calendar lists all of these events there. If you click on one of those groups, it's going to give you an explanation of what the group is. So if you need a little deeper dive, make sure you do that and look at the calendar. And with that, I'm going to welcome newcomers. I saw some of you here for the first time today. Our ushers are coming forward with our welcome packets. If this is your first time, we'd like you to raise your hand so they can see where you're seated and give you a welcome packet. And this has some goodies inside. There's a card on the back that we would love for you to fill out. And those of you at home, there's a QR code on your screen right now. And if you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, we would love for you to fill this out. Give us your email address. That way you can know what's happening here during the week. On the front, there's a rose sticker. We'd love you to peel that off and stick it to your clothing so we know who you are. And we invite you down to Coffee and Connection today. That's where the real community happens, when we get to share a cup of coffee or a treat. So we welcome you, and we're glad that you're here today. Let's stand for our congregational song.
Yes, let's. So we sang this last week. It's a call and response. The choir is going to be singing with you guys. So please sing loud. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I've got love. I've got peace. I've got joy flowing like a river. I've got love. I've got peace. I've got joy flowing like a river. One heart, one mind, one love flowing like a river. I've got hope. I've got strength. I've got faith to move every mountain. I've got hope. I've got strength. I've got faith. Move every mountain. One heart, one mind, sing this all together. Very nice. That was really good, okay? Here we go. We're going to sing One Heart all together. One heart, one mind, one love, coming together. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
And in that spirit, let's turn to your neighbor. Greet your neighbor. Good morning.
1, 2, 3.
Yes. Boy, this is just, y'all can continue this at Coffee and Connection, okay, after the service. We're so grateful for this moment where we all get to share that wonderful energy with each other. So we're going to dial it down a little bit now as we prepare for meditation. Susie Ellen's going to lead us in that, and then she will turn it over to Reverend Evan.
I am here to give and receive love. I am here to give and receive. I am here to give and receive love. I am here to give and receive love. To give and receive love. I am here to give and receive love. I am here to give and receive. I am here to give and receive love.
So now, taking a moment to quiet that mind, to feel that stillness of spirit, of the infinite source, love of all life, right here, right now, individualized between you and me. So just moving into that place, in that place of stillness, opening the heart to its fullest and receive. Just receive. Just receive from that infinite source all that is available to us each and every moment. Every moment we can turn within through the day to just know and remember who we are. Each one of us a loving presence, a place of infinite wisdom, always flowing, available to each and every one of us. So in this place and depth of love, let's just take a few minutes to just be silent and feel the love. Now coming back so gently and slowly, and opening our eyes and beginning to receive and give that love that only we can give, and stand as the light of a joyful love in our world. Blessed be each and every one of us this day, and so it is.
I am here to give and receive love. I am here to give and receive. I am here to give and receive love. I am here to give and receive love, love. I am here to give and receive love. We are here. We are here to give and receive love. We are here. We are here to give and receive. We are here to give and receive love. We are here to give and receive love, love. We are here to give and receive love.
And each day leads you where you wanna go. And if it leads with the choice and you have to choose, hope to choose the one that means the most to you. And if one door opens to another door closes, keep on walking till you find the window.
If it's cold outside, show the world the warmth of your smile. But more than anything, my wish for you is that this life becomes all that you wanted to. Your dreams stay big, your worries stay small. You never need to carry more than you can hold. And while you're out there getting where you're getting to, I hope you know somebody loves you and wants the same things too. Yeah, this is my wish. I hope you never look back, but you never forget
all the ones who love you in the place you left.
I hope you always forgive and you never regret.
And you help somebody every chance you get.
Oh, you find God's grace in every mistake.
And always give more than you take.
But more than anything, my wish for you is that this life becomes all that you wanted to. Your dreams stay big, your worries stay small. You never need to carry more than you can hold. And while you're out there getting where you're getting to, I hope you know somebody loves you and wants the same thing too. Yeah, it's my wish for you is that this life becomes all that you wanted to. Your dreams stay big, your worries stay small. You never need to carry more than you can hold. And while you're out there getting where you're getting to, I hope you know somebody loves you and wants the same thing too. Yeah.
Well, good morning, Unity of Portland. How is everybody this morning? So, I'm Reverend Evan Wilkins, and I know some of you. And I do want to say, Beth mentioned how Reverend Lisa is in Hawaii. I'm the guest speaker this morning because Reverend Lisa's in Hawaii. And she mentioned how she doesn't feel bitter. Beth, I wanted to tell you to speak for yourself. Especially when I saw on Facebook how Lisa had posted a picture of her bare feet in the sand, in the water in the background. But anyway, okay. So I digress. I'm going to be on my best behavior, especially because we do have guests here with us this morning. So anyway. So I usually like to start my Sunday talks off with a question. And you don't have to answer, in front of everybody. You can answer in your mind if you want. But has anybody here ever really thought for a minute about spiritual practice and thought to themselves, man, this is hard. This is difficult. Or even thought to yourself, God, there are so many different paths and practices out there. Which one should I choose? And how do I know if I've chosen the right one? Maybe it's just me, but I can't tell you how many times I've started getting into a practice only to become frustrated or to even stop practicing because it just feels like it is too difficult to maintain. It becomes too much of one of those situations where I spend time wondering if I'm doing it right than I'm actually doing practicing. And for myself, I came to a realization last year. Something really began to kind of hit home for me. See, years ago, I stopped going to a traditional church. It was a traditional church that I grew up in, and I stopped going, and I realized that one of the reasons why I stopped going was because it just felt too confined for me. There was no wiggle room anywhere in there. No room for creativity, because I like to be creative sometimes, and it just felt too prescriptive almost. I was growing tired. I realized I was growing tired of what it felt like somebody else laying out a prescription for me on how to have my own relationship with God or the universe or whatever name you use for that presence. Now, Evan, you've got to be doing this or you're not a good Christian. Oops, you didn't do this or that. Your Christian card is revoked. Or what do you mean you view God in a different way than what you've been taught? There's no place in heaven for you. I hope you like it hot. Which I do if I'm on the beach. But I've also found that all of that talk doesn't stop just because you stop attending a traditional church. You may practice differently or study that God is something different than a man in the sky. But it doesn't mean that some of that chatter stops, right? Some of that chatter that's going on in here. Now, sure, some of that chatter is internal, but some of it isn't. And I've seen it happen in spiritual centers and churches just as much as it happens in traditional churches. You're still sometimes given this prescription of things that you should be doing, this prescription of things that you ought to be doing. Things that can make you more spiritual, right? Or things that can start you off on the right spiritual path, whatever that may be, whatever right really is, right? Now, every few years, I feel like I go through a little bit of a spiritual transformation in my life. And this is a time where I'll usually start to kind of question things. Or I'll start to wonder if I'm on the right path for myself. Or even start to feel that maybe I need to tweak it a little bit and do something just a little bit different. And this happened to me again last year. And I'm not specifically talking about unity or the belief system within unity. But I'm more referring to a spiritual path that I've been on for the past few years. To me, it began to feel like those days when I did attend a more traditional religious church. And I didn't really realize what that was. All I knew when it started was that I started to feel as if something was just no longer working for me. And then something happened to make it more clear. Now I've been staying off Facebook quite a bit nowadays, but every once in a while I'll go on and I'll still browse some. And during one of those browsing times, I came across a picture that one of my friends had shared on her Facebook page. Now, it was a picture of her child, maybe 7 or 8 years old. And in that picture, she's just laying there in the grass. Her eyes are closed. She's got this little smile on her face. And it's one of the most blissful pictures that I think I've seen in a really long time. But you can tell that this child is just in a moment of just pure bliss. She's happy, she's present, she's just happy in her own skin, and she's happy to be alive in that moment. And it's obvious just by looking at her face. And you can tell in that moment she's just so at ease with life. It was then that things started to become clear for me. It was then that I realized what it was that I had been feeling. It was then that I realized that I needed to just take a step back from everything and to put it all in perspective and to approach it with ease and to stop making it so hard. To start with that, I knew that I personally needed to stop trying to conform myself to a prescription of spirituality. And what I mean by that is I needed to stop trying to conform and contort myself around how others viewed and approached God. I realized that I needed to just step back and allow myself to view and to approach God in the way that it presents itself to me. I realize that it doesn't matter if absolutely no one else is on board with that. What matters is how it is for me. You know, in most traditional religions, we're taught that God is a very specific thing, right? And to honor and praise that God, you must adhere to very specific guidelines. And if you don't, God just isn't going to work for you, right? And for me, it began to seem almost as if sometimes spirituality was the same way. You know, I realize that some of those guidelines, although they may be a bit more loose, you know, they're still very much in place. And I've seen it with other people too. You know, people coming to me voicing their frustration with meditation. And when I ask why, you know, why are you feeling frustrated with meditation? They tell me, they're like, well, I can't completely clear my mind. Or, you know, I can't meditate because I can't sit still for 20, 15, even sometimes if you're like me, even for 2 minutes. They get frustrated and then they just quit. They want nothing more to do with it. You know, a few years back, I worked as a personal trainer, and people would come to me feeling frustrated. You know, they'd tell me about how much they just hated and detested exercise. So I'd dig a little deeper, and I'd find out why they felt they hated it so much. You know, often I'd find that they were trying to conform themselves around how they saw others exercising. You know, for instance, somebody that hadn't exercised in years, they'd decide they were going to go, you know, on this long run. They'd lace up their shoes, they'd go out and they'd run, and then they'd get shin splints. Or they decide that they wanted to eat healthy. They wanted to change their eating habits. And maybe they were told that sugar was bad, so they just stopped it cold turkey out of the blue and found themselves craving it more than ever. And they wondered why they binged on that package of cookies. I have never done that, but, you know, for those of you that have, no judgment. But the things people would tell me around picking up a spiritual practice weren't necessarily so different. They didn't feel they were able to practice how others were practicing, and then they would feel frustrated. And why? Oftentimes, they were trying to conform themselves around somebody else's idea of what it means to be spiritual. So the first of our Unity 5 principles is really, quite simply stated, God is. In that God is absolute good and everywhere presence. And if you've been around Unity or like teachings any amount of time, we know that part of where God is everywhere is inside of us, right? And with that knowledge, why do we sometimes just make it so hard to commune with this presence, to draw from that space from within where that God presence forever resides? So what I want to invite you to do is try something a little bit different today if you have felt any kind of frustration on your spiritual walk. I want to invite you to just allow yourself a moment to just stop. To just stop and breathe and even perhaps just take a step back. I want to invite you to allow yourself to begin to just put it all into perspective. You know, I mentioned a bit ago how I feel that God, and my relationship with God is very personal to me. Now, during my time in the traditional church, I would so often feel that it was intrusive and offensive for them to talk about how we should witness to other people. I'd feel this because to me, it didn't feel right for me to assume that I know exactly how God speaks to every single person. I flat out felt that it was really none of my business. So there are ways that I have learned to put it all into perspective for myself. How to make the spiritual path just a little bit easier and not quite so difficult. Now remember, this is how I do it for me. This isn't a prescription for you. You may find bits and pieces that work for you, and you may not. That's okay. You can at least say, we got to look at this weird guy, Evan, on Sunday. with this Texas accent. Now, I've started reading the book, The Tao of Forgiveness by William Martin. And in it, he refers to willingness. And he says this about willingness. He says, without this shift in our practice, we'll bog down in one more attempt to fix, improve, tweak, and modify the conditioned mind until we become the right person. And of course, right will also be defined as beyond our reach. If we could, through our conditioned mind, get it right, we would have done it by now. And we probably wouldn't be here and be sitting here right now, right? Because we'd have all the answers and be doing it exactly right. So I invite you, as one of my instructors in ministerial school once said to me, she said, to approach spirituality like a buffet. Take what works for you and leave the rest. So one of the ways I discovered is going back to that picture of the child I was mentioning. Even Jesus said it when he said in Matthew 18:3 of the Bible, he said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, Jesus is likely not telling us that we need to regress in our maturity. Although if you want to do that, I'm all for it because it feels great, let me just tell you. But Jesus may have meant a lot of things by that statement. As approaching things from the standpoint of a child, it can be all kinds of different things, right? Like my mother-in-law, she made her transition at the age of 79, but she used to tell Mindy and I beforehand, she'd be like, I don't feel any different than I did when I was a child or in my teens. I don't feel any different than I did when I was considerably younger inside. So that child part of us is still very much there. Maybe our bodies have aged and our minds have matured. But maybe the maturity of mind is where some of that child inside got kind of shoved aside a little bit because we started thinking more on the practical side of life. Not saying this isn't necessary, but with that, we probably also being mature and practical is necessary because we do have bills to pay and things like that. But we probably also lost a little bit of our curiosity and our wonder in which we use to approach life. One of the ways I commune with my child side is just allow myself times to just be silly and to have fun with spirituality and to stop thinking it's got to be so serious all the time. For instance, I practice yoga, and it's now one of the ways in which I practice my own spirituality because it helps me to pay attention to my breath and to be present in any given moment, even when I'm off the mat. Now, that could be an entire talk in and of itself, but I mention yoga because of the balances, right? The balance poses. I'm not going to try one up here because I'll probably fall on my face, but there are days, and it's probably true with all of us, that I couldn't balance on one leg if you paid me to do it. You could probably promise me $1 million and I would not be able to stand on my leg that day. But I used to get very frustrated with yoga in the beginning because I would think, I just can't do that. But then I found this yoga instructor online, and it's Yoga by Adriene. If anybody hasn't heard of her or wants to check her out on YouTube, she's awesome. But she herself will sometimes fall during the practice. And she mentions this, and she laughs about it when she does. And she also invites you to allow yourself to fall. And if you do, to not only fall, but to play with it and have fun with it. See where it goes. And to laugh at it. To give yourself permission to restart the pose over and over as many times as it takes, or even to modify it into something that fits you a little bit better. And that gave me permission to also laugh when I fall in a pose. And more importantly, permission to have fun with it, regardless as to how it unfolds. And it can be done with all kinds of things, right? Not just yoga. One of our dogs was recently barking incessantly. Now, he's a bossy little dog. He is a sassy dog. And we weren't doing something he wanted right that minute. So he was letting us know his thoughts and his feelings around that. He was practicing unity, thoughts and feelings. But I suddenly became aware that I had this scowl on my face. And I began to think about how ridiculous I probably looked and would have looked if I'd seen my face in a mirror right then. And I began to laugh at the thought. And Mindy, my wife, she's probably like, what in the world are you laughing at over there? But I invite you to be willing to just allow yourself to have more fun. Allow yourself to laugh more. Allow yourself to laugh when the thought of you ridiculously running through the airport to catch your flight the next day keeps flitting through your mind during your meditation. I've done that one before too. But another way I commune with that child inside is just to allow myself to remain open and curious. I've heard this mentioned by several Unity, and probably lots of other ministers as well, but children are naturally curious, aren't they? One of the things I've noticed about them is they don't analyze it either. They are unabashedly curious, and they do not try to hide it. They'll even sometimes ask questions that we may deem inappropriate, but it's really not intended to hurt anybody. It's simply intended for them to learn more about the world and about what's happening around them. I remember once as a child when my sister asked one of my grandmothers why she had a mustache. It's just one of those things. But she was genuinely curious about something that she observed. And maybe we don't have to walk around asking people such questions, but we can approach our spiritual practice with a curiosity that can assist us along the way. And prayer was one of those things I began to approach with a curiosity. For me, I began to wonder about prayer and ask, why are there so many approaches out there? And B, if one worked better than the other. And C, if I had to adhere to any one of those approaches to have mine answered. And one of the realizations for me last year was that prayer had become too strict of a practice for me. I found that I almost stopped doing it because for me, it just hadn't been enjoyable anymore. During my practice, I found that I was so focused on whether or not I was getting it right that I was barely even present during my own prayer practice. So I decided to become curious and ask myself why it was that I was feeling that way. The outcome for me was that I was following a prescription, and it didn't feel right to me. So as a result, I shifted it for myself, and I began to do it in the way that I felt was right for me. And I can't tell you how much more free I have begun to feel. It was like a breath of fresh air that had just hit me in the face. So I invite you to allow yourself to do the same. If something within your practice feels too difficult or it doesn't seem to work for you personally, I invite you to become willing to become curious. And to ask yourself why and to just sit with it. Really think about what it is and be willing to allow yourself to approach it in a different way. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. What matters is that it works for you. So maybe I'm way off here today. But to me, spirituality in our walk with the presence of God was never meant to be difficult. It was meant to be enjoyable. It was meant to be pleasurable. And it was meant to perhaps even be fun. It's the conditioning over the years telling us that it had to be this way or that way, or that we're doing it incorrectly, that has made it so difficult. So as Susan sang earlier, I hope that the days come easy and the moments pass slow. And each road leads you where you want to go. And if you're faced with a choice and you have to choose, I hope you choose the one that means the most to you. Namaste. Thank you. Okay, so now do we do a song and then the offering, Beth? Or are we doing the offering while we're doing the song? Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. All right, so I could tell everybody that when we give money to our church, we've got lights to keep on, we've got a building to maintain, we've got salaries, but I'm not going to mention any of that. No, but what I am going to say, Susan was singing about prosperity earlier, and we do, we practice prosperity and unity. And this is one of those moments where we don't just talk about it, we really put it into play. Because we know that what we release to the universe comes back to us. I think it was what Jesus said tenfold. So I invite you to just relax and release and really just allow yourself to practice that practice. And our ushers can come forward.
Circulation, circulation, like the water raining down to grow the flowers up through the ground. Circulation, circulation, the universe you're given to will multiply it and send it back to you. Circulation, circulation, like the water raining down to grow the flowers up through the ground. Circulation, circulation, the universe you're given to will multiply it and send it back to you. Press down, good measure, shaking together and running over. Press down, good measure, shaking together and running over. Press down, good measure, shaking together and running over. Press down, good measure, shaking together and running over. Circulation, circulation, like the water raining down to grow the flowers up through the ground. Circulation, circulation, the universe you're given to will multiply it and send it back to you. Will multiply it and send it back to you. Will multiply it and send it back to you.
Okay. Anybody got any good jokes to share this morning? Clean jokes. We are in church. Michael, I saw you laughing, so.
Let's do circulation again.
Let's do it.
1, 2, 3,
That's good.
Circulation, circulation, like the water raining down to grow the flowers up through the ground. Circulation, circulation, the universe you're given to will multiply it and send it back to you. Here they are.
Now we can sing our kids.
You are the star of the morning. You are heaven smiling at us. You're God's gift of tomorrow. Oh, how we love you. Oh, how we love you. You are the star of the morning. You are heaven smiling at us. You're God's gift of tomorrow. Oh, how we love you. Oh, how we love you.
Wow, it's so good to see the kids back in the sanctuary again. Maybe it's been happening for a while and I just haven't been here, but it's great to see you all. I'm glad y'all came out. Instead of staying at home, throwing snowballs and all that kind of stuff, because that's what I would have done when I was a kid, but yeah. Oh, Barbara said they don't do anything like that. Never. Okay. Barbara, remember, we are in church. Okay, we got the small ones coming. I like those shoes, the dog shoes. Those are awesome. All right. And why don't we give our kids a big unity blessing? Y'all want to join me in that? Give our kids, our youth, a unity blessing? Sure. Let's do it. We've got a runaway, but that's okay. All right. Children and youth of Unity of Portland, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ you are. All right. So really, as you go through this week, if you hit one of those points where you're like, man, I'm just frustrated. It could be with anything. It doesn't even have to be with spirituality. Just think to yourself, why is it that I'm making this so difficult? Let's just have fun with it. All right, now I invite you to rise and sing our Unity Peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. Take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And our prayer for protection, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And we're going to sing the kids out. Come on now.
The love of God is in my heart, thank you for this day. The peace of God is in my life, thank you for this day. Oh, feel the love of God, the peace of God. Oh, feel the love of God, the peace of God. The joy of God is in my heart, thank you for this day. The truth of God is in my life, thank you for this day. Oh, feel the joy